Thanks you guys so much for joining us today. We're going to be talking about what happens when you get so distracted and you get overwhelmed and you're unable to focus and concentrate and all these things. How do you declutter your brain so that you can be more productive in life and at work? And I'm really excited today. We've got a specialist here, Kitty Andrews. Kitty, how are
Hello.
you today?
Fantastic. Hello, hello. I'm so glad to be here.
So, Kitty, I'm curious. You've been doing some really fine work across the country with lots of people. And I'm curious how you became to be known as the thought organizer.
Thank you for asking that because that's one of my favorite stories. It was early on in my coaching career, and a client and I were ending our tenure together because she had accomplished what she wanted to accomplish. And that being getting her office together so that she could focus on her coaching business. And she said, "Well, Kitty, I'd like to thank you for getting me organized." And I nearly jumped through the screen at her and said, "Janet, I'm not an organizer because if I think organizer, I think Martha Stewart, pretty little boxes and things like that." And she said, "No, no, no, calm down." She said, "What you do is you help people to organize their thoughts so that they can organize everything else. In other words, putting their thoughts into little boxes so that it's not as overwhelming, because overwhelm is what's going to kill off any of your momentum." That-
Well, thought organizing is becoming really prevalent to us today in the sense that everybody's on social media and they're glued to their phones and their tablets and all these different devices. And then when they have to do lists, it's just overwhelming emails and overwhelming to do lists. And then there are lots of apps. And how do you take your thoughts and put them into little boxes?
It depends on the individual. Now, it's important to note that people come to me with organizing. I think that their problem is, or their challenge is physical clutter. And as we start to do the physical decluttering, all of the other layers of the other four pillars of your life start to emerge, and they start to realize that, wow, I have a lot going on in my brain, a lot more than I actually thought. And I believe that physical clutter is a manifestation of everything that's going on in here. So, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Really tough to tell. But everyone I've ever asked, if I say, which is worse to you, the physical clutter or the mental clutter, every single one, 10 out of 10, will say the mental clutter. Physical clutter, we know how to pick it up. We just don't do it, or we don't know where to start. But the mental, it's all just jumbled up in your brain and it's difficult to sort out.
That was awesome. And I'm curious because this is a lifelong mission for you. And
Yes.
so, how did you come to this space of deciding that mental clutter was an interesting enough thing that you were going to dedicate your life to it and then help other people overcome that as well?
And that's been a journey as well because it was suggested to me. I've been an organizing maniac for forever. There's a little bit of autism spectrum in there, so that's partly where it comes from. But my first job after high school was as a file clerk, and I got promoted to the accounting department. And 2 months later, a woman from the where I was filing, she said, "Would you consider coming back and working for us part time because we can't find anything anymore? You were the best we ever had."
Oh,
And
man.
it just that need, if anything, for having things in an orderly places so that everything flows. It made my brain function. Let's say, for example, in my 18 years as a cleaning business, to which you can certainly relate, there were times that I would just kind of straighten things out a little bit, just tidy it a little bit so I could focus on my
Mhm.
job, frankly. And I was lucky. Every single client liked what I did. Could have gone the other way, but it never did. They said, "I've been meaning to smooth it out and it feels better in here." And then I thought, okay, maybe decluttering is a way to go. And I stopped going into people's houses because at that point, this was before virtual was a thing. This was back in 2018. And I think there were two other virtual declutterers in the world that I could Google. And I started with that, but it was over the ensuing 3 years that I started to really realize that no, it's not the physical clutter. And it was just working with clients and seeing Hey, I'm fixing their marriage. I'm offering them business coaching advice. Why? Because they can finally see the forest for the trees. Perfect example. Client Sarah in Ohio. She won't mind me saying this. We started with physical clutter. Her sun porch at the entrance into her home was so it's crowded that you kind of have 1 foot space to walk in. And about 2 months into the decluttering process, we of not only the sunroom, but we went further. She said, I am finally going to start that fitness program that I've been promising myself for years that I'm going to do. And she formulated a plan. She said, I'm feeling a lot better. I don't know why.
Mhm.
And I was reasonably new in the business, so I wasn't sure why either. And so she started her fitness program, which I'm proud to say she still goes to this day. One time she drove her tractor to the gym. Yeah, that's how committed she is, right? And then the heart pillar. And so that's the health pillar. On the heart pillar, she one time said, just shortly after, my husband said something to me that I'm not really sure I liked. And she told me what it was, and it wasn't so bad. But I said, is this new? Kind of unusual. And she stopped and she thought about it. And she said, you know what? He's been saying that kind of thing to me for about the 25 years of our marriage. I just never noticed. I found that really interesting. And she's certainly not the only one. Just to have her layers of the onion being peeled back and the eyes opening and the clarity that comes with decluttering.
Thank you from our listeners and from all of us and all of us here at the Savvy Cleaner team. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you, Kitty Andrews, for joining us and being here on our show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Angela.